December 31, 2025. Story 1. Israel is banning more than 24 international humanitarian groups from Gaza starting tomorrow, including Doctors Without Borders, Oxfam, and the Norwegian Refugee Council. Israel claims the groups didn't meet new registration requirements, including sharing detailed staff and funding information. MSF is responsible for 20% of hospital beds and supports a third of all births in Gaza, serving nearly 500,000 people. MSF said a large portion of Gaza's population will lose access to critical medical care, water, and life-saving support. Takeaway: this is the aid infrastructure being systematically removed. The registration requirements function as the mechanism. If you support any of these organizations, understand their Gaza operations are ending as of January 1st. Story 2. The Pentagon awarded Boeing an $8.6 billion contract for 25 new F-15 fighter jets for Israel, announced after the Netanyahu-Trump meeting at Mar-a-Lago. Takeaway: arms deals immediately following diplomatic visits tell you what the visits produced. Story 3. Saudi Arabia struck Yemen's port city of Mukalla after accusing the UAE of arming separatist forces. The UAE announced it's withdrawing remaining troops. The separatists, initially allied with the Saudi-backed government, launched an offensive against government troops earlier this month. Takeaway: Gulf allies fighting each other through proxies in Yemen is a fracture in what was presented as a unified coalition. The alignment map just changed. Story 4. Russia launched drone strikes on Odessa, injuring 4, including 3 children. Russia claims to have moved a nuclear-capable missile system into Belarus a day after accusing Ukraine of droning Putin's residence, providing no evidence. European national security advisors will meet in Ukraine Saturday. Polish PM Tusk said a peace deal could be reached within weeks, citing U.S. willingness to participate in security guarantees, including American troops on the border. Takeaway: U.S. troops on the Ukraine-Russia line of contact would be a tripwire force. That's the new element. The nuclear-capable missiles in Belarus is the counter-positioning. Story 5. Iran protests spread from businesses to universities. Students protested at 6 campuses in Tehran and other cities chanting freedom and don't be afraid, we are all together. Clashes broke out near the University of Tehran. Iran's president warned any actions against Iran would be severe and regret-inducing. Parliament's head said Iran doesn't seek permission to defend itself. Takeaway: protests spreading from bazaars to universities means the discontent is crossing class and generational lines. That's when regimes face real pressure. The defensive rhetoric signals internal concern. Story 6. At least 2 oil tankers arrived in Venezuela despite the blockade, with Chinese vessels approaching. It's unclear if China will press the U.S. for safe passage. A New York Times investigation found a scorched boat washed ashore in Colombia days after a November strike, followed by 2 bodies and packets with traces of marijuana. Marijuana is legal in at least 40 U.S. states. Takeaway: physical evidence showing marijuana, not cocaine or fentanyl, directly contradicts the stated justification for lethal strikes. The Times investigation is the documentation that matters for accountability. Story 7. The U.S. sanctioned 10 people and firms from Iran and Venezuela over drone trade and ballistics support, part of Trump's maximum pressure campaign that led to strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the summer. Story 8. Bolivia protests entered a second week with police firing tear gas. Government austerity doubled gasoline prices and tripled diesel. Workers say food and transportation costs will skyrocket for communities in poverty. Protesters said, "We will fight until we get this cursed decree repealed." Takeaway: fuel price increases that cascade to food and transport hit the poorest hardest. The decree's survival depends on whether protests maintain momentum into the new year. Story 9. Honduras runner-up Nasrallah formally appealed the election results, lost to Trump-endorsed Asfra by less than 1% amid technical issues and transparency failures. Takeaway: the appeal keeps the legitimacy question open. Resolution timeline will determine whether this destabilizes the incoming government. Story 10. Florida executed 19 people this year, a record high, accounting for 40% of national executions. Advocates warned many suffered mental illness, lacked proper legal representation, or were abuse victims. Governor DeSantis has sole authority to issue execution warrants, accused of expediting for political gain. Takeaway: sole executive authority over execution timing concentrates power in ways other states' systems don't allow. The rate acceleration is the policy. Story 11. A newly unsealed order revealed DOJ officials pushed Kilmar Abrego Garcia's indictment as a top priority after he was wrongfully sent to El Salvador's mega prison and returned under court order. ICE says it won't rearrest him while the judge's order stands. He's seeking dismissal on grounds of targeting. Takeaway: top priority designation after he won his case tells you the indictment is retaliation. The targeting argument has documentary support. Story 12. A federal judge temporarily blocked ending TPS for 230 South Sudanese immigrants, citing risk of deadly harm if deported. The UN has warned of escalating armed conflict and widespread food insecurity in South Sudan. Takeaway: deadly harm findings create legal protection, but temporary blocks require ongoing litigation. The protection exists today but must be defended. Story 13. The administration is freezing all Minnesota childcare funds based on a video from a right-wing anti-Muslim influencer claiming fraud at Somali-operated daycares. The video provided scant evidence but was retweeted by Vance and Musk. Takeaway. Social media posts from influencers becoming basis for cutting state funds to childcare as the information to policy pipeline operating in real time. The evidence standard went viral. Story 14. At midnight, Zoran Mamdani will be sworn in as New York City mayor by Attorney General Letitia James in an abandoned subway station under City Hall. On New Year's Day, Bernie Sanders will publicly administer the oath on the City Hall steps, introduced by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, with 40,000 expected at the inauguration block party. Takeaway. The first Democratic Socialist NYC mayor in modern history takes office at midnight. The venue and speakers signal the coalition. What he does in the first 100 days tells you whether the symbolism translates to policy. That's December 31st, and the end of 2025.